This is going to be my first ASMR. I have never done one of these before. I'm using the microphone, the Shure SM7B, and I'm going to be reading Working at a Cemetery is a Unique Experience by Botic from Creepypasta.com. It's a relatively medium-length story. Okay, so it's kind of long. I'd say it's about 2 pages. But here we go. You'll be familiar with this, by the way, from my microphone review video. This is the same script that I read off of there. So, here we go. So, I work at a cemetery, Pine Law Memorial Park to be exact. My family has owned it for nearly 5 generations, and I've been working there since I was 12, officially since I was 15. Cemeteries, I know, are sort of inherently creepy, and despite my family being in the dead people business since long before I was born, I still have always found it to be a weird place, and for much, much more than the obvious reasons. I posted a couple of my stories related to Pine Law here in the past, but I decided to put them in a more concise format as well as add several more. Growing up, I heard stories of plenty of weird things that happened at the family cemetery. One thing I'd always been told is that even though weird things happened, no one that's ever worked there has ever been harmed. Other people are another story. I suppose I should begin with the very first one I ever heard, per my mom. Some weird stuff that happened before this, I guess, but since it was the first story I've ever been told about Pine Law, this is what made me wary to ever be there by myself or at night. Something like 100 some odd years ago now, the cemetery was obviously much smaller than it is now. At that time, there was around 120 bodies buried here. Apparently, the city wanted it to develop, and they wanted to buy the particular land that my family owned, effectively shutting us down. My family fought it, and a deal was reached to sell them the land that we had. If the city would then also pay a portion of the land next to it, on which so the deal was their family would sell it, but only if the city would pay a portion of the land next to it, on which my family would continue the business. The city acquiesced, and they partially paid for an equal amount of adjacent land. My family at that time also bought several more acres past that, which we're still filling up to this day. Anyways, when that happened, my family had to inform all of the other families that the remains of their dearly departed loved ones were going to be moved into new plots. Work began on that, and as bulldozers and other large shoveling equipment wasn't yet common, it all had to be done by hand. All went well for the first roughly two-thirds of the moves. The ground was dug up, the caskets were retrieved, and they were moved, along with their headstones, down to the new, freshly dug plots. The final third is where things got weird. Back then, caskets were generally made of wood, and rather than crafty woodwork, designs made, I can't read, a decorative cloth was laid over it. These wooden caskets, more often than not, weighed roughly equal to or less than the body they contained. All this is to say that in many cases, the weight of the body inside was discernible from the casket itself. Well, when they got to that final northernmost third of the land that the city had bought, the caskets became lighter, the sounds of the corpses within slightly sliding, a jerky step, making a limb fall to one side, hitting the inside of the box, etc., began to become fewer and farther between. Eventually, with the last 20 or so caskets, they felt like there was nothing inside at all. With the permission of the families, the cemetery employees opened those caskets that they thought were empty and found that to be just the case. The insides of the caskets were bare. and looked as if there hadn't been anything inside of them. This was quite a bit of a scandal, as I'm sure you can imagine. My family both publicly and privately swore up and down that the land had been untouched since the caskets in question were buried, and that the absence of any contents, as well as the cleanliness of the caskets themselves, was simply impossible. It took some years for the reputation of Pine Law to recover, but alas, it did. So, that's where I'm going to end this for now. This is part one of working at a cemetery is a unique experience. If you like this, please leave a comment and like below, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and maybe I'll continue to do more of this. And yes, to the Obelisk-Gaming community that I run, work is continuing on the Gary's Mod server, so CRP will be coming back. So, yeah, thank you for tuning in. I know some of you really asked for this. It is currently 9:36 in the morning. I am at work, but there's nothing going on today, and it's going to be a very slow day. It's cold as hell out,